Photoshop Lesson 7, and unfortunately I'm a little bit under the weather, but we're going to try to get through this one. So in this lesson, basically what you guys are going to be doing is taking a picture of Martin Luther King Jr. or a historical figure of your choice, and you're going to be combining it with this picture of the tree, and you're going to kind of combine them so that the bark actually kind of looks like the person that you chose. And I'll show you an example of this. Let's see here. Let's get out of here. There's my images. Like this. That's kind of what it's going to look like when everything is said and done. Alright, so there's two different ways you can go about this. You can go about this with a color picture, or you can go about this with a black and white picture. And I'll start by using the color picture, because if you choose a color picture, that's fine, but you're going to have to turn it black and white. And by now, if I asked you guys to turn a color picture black and white in Photoshop, you should kind of know how to do that. So here, let's go ahead and do that. We're going to do an adjustment layer, which means we're going to click on adjustments. We're going to find black and white. It's going to turn our whole picture black and white, just like that, which is fine and dandy. I'm going to go ahead and merge my layers by right-clicking and saying merge layers. So now I can actually just take this picture and drop it right onto my tree trunk, which is kind of where I want to start. I'm actually going to use this image just because I kind of like it a little bit better. He's kind of facing a little more forward, or, you know, I don't know. Either one. Doesn't really matter. So let's take this one. I'm going to grab this image with my mouse. Let me unlock this first there. With my mouse, I'm going to take it all the way up here and touch the tab here that says tree. And then I'm going to come right in here in the center, and I'm just going to drop it. Alright, so notice now I have my image of Martin Luther King. I'm going to go ahead, because I'm done with this image, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Don't save. Close this out. Don't save. Now, over here, I have two layers. I have my layer 0. Let's call this tree, or tree trunk. Let's call layer 1 MLK. Okay? Okay. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and free transform my MLK layer. So I'm going to go Edit. I'm going to go free transform. Alright. I'm going to try to find the corner of my picture. Yours might be super huge, just like mine is kind of big. And I'm just going to go ahead and hold Shift on my keyboard while I do this, so I keep the proportions, my height and my width the same. I'm going to go ahead and drop it with my mouse and then let go of Shift. Okay? So free transform it until it kind of fits onto the tree trunk. There. Something like that. Alright, and when you're done, you want to press Enter. Make sure that you have the size correct before you actually press Enter, because free transform is a destructive transformation, blah, 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 blah. If you want to make it bigger again, it's going to pixelate on you, and we've gone through this. You know, JPEGs, GIFs, things like that. These are called raster-based images, so they're based on little pixels on a grid, and we went through this in the last lesson. So if you want to make them bigger again, free transform doesn't really like that. So make sure you get the size right the first time. Okay. Alright, let's move on. Alright, so let's view our image on screen. So we're gonna go up here, view. We're gonna say fit on screen. Alright, so here's what we're working with here. We're gonna use something called quick masking to basically remove the face from the background. And it's kind of like a paintbrush tool. It's kind of like a selection tool, kind of, sort of. So it's kind of weird, but here you go. What we're going to do here is we're going to select the face using quick masks. Alright, so I'm going to basically come over here. I'm going to select my quick mask button. I'm going to make sure that my foreground color is black here. And notice what happened to my layer over here. It turned red, which means basically I have a quick mask on. And I'm going to come up here to my paintbrush tool. Alright, with your brush tool selected, you need to come up here and make sure that your hardness is set to 0. And let's go for like a medium-sized brush. Right now that's kind of big. You know, a little less than medium. I think that'll be alright. You know, hardness, when you're saying that your hardness is set to 0, basically what it means is when you click and drag into this image, notice how I have that fuzzy outline? That means you have a real nice soft edge to your selection. Alright, so let me show you what hardness does all the way up now. So if you turn your hardness all the way up and then do a selection, See that? It's a real hard outline here, and that's not what I want, because basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to fade this picture into the background of the tree. So I'm going to make sure my hardness is set to 0, with my brush foreground set to black and a medium-sized brush, my hardness set to 0 and a medium size here. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of select Martin Luther King, and it doesn't matter if I'm super messy with my selection because I did set my softness or my hardness to 0. So just make sure, oh, see, and I just made a mistake. I'll fix that in a second. I have a new mouse on my computer, so it's super sensitive. I hardly have to move it at all, and it's like off the screen. There. So just make sure what you want to select is in white. I'm going to go ahead and reverse this and deselect this little bit up here. There you go. Alright, maybe over here too. Whoops. Just a touch. Just a touch of love. Alright. Okay, guys, so now with the face kind of painted red, which means that's what you're going to select. Let me get the eyeball right there. I'm kind of seeing these little bits that I didn't get. There. Okay. Alright. Alright, and with all of this done, what I'm going to do is basically press Q on my keyboard. When I press Q on my keyboard, what it's going to do is it's going to make this into a selection. Alright? Notice, let me put that away, look at my marching ants though. I'm basically selecting like the tree trunk, I'm selecting the picture, I'm selecting everything except for the face, and that's not what I really want. So again, I'm going to come up here and say select, and I'm going to say select inverse. So now I just have the face selected like that, alright? And what you're going to do now is either hold Control on your keyboard or Command on a Mac, and you're going to press J. That did nothing. Let me try that one more time. So I'm going to hold down, because I'm on a Mac, Command J. You should hold down Control on your keyboard and J. There we go. Notice over here now I have layer 1, and you should kind of look over here because you can kind of see that it's just the face. I don't have the background of the picture anymore. So it's just the face. And eventually you're going to see that that face is going to make its way into the back of the tree trunk. Alright? Alright, so let's start by clicking off the eyeballs here of both of our layers of MLK. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this layer of the tree trunk. So I'm going to say duplicate layer, and now it's going to say tree trunk copy. I'm going to go ahead and do a blur on this thing. So the last time we did a blur, we used the blur gallery and we used this tilt shift blur. This time around we're going to go to blur, and we're actually going to use something called Gaussian Blur. Alright, and then we have these presets that open up right here. I'm going to make my blur radius, and you can kind of get a preview of your picture right here. Alright, this is my blur radius at 0, pretty crisp. I'm going to go ahead and say that I want my blur radius to be about 2 pixels to increase the blur on this tree. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and say OK. Alright, so now I have tree trunk and I have tree trunk copy. Alright, and you should have 4 layers now just like I do. Alright, and now what I'm going to do is create what's called a displacement layer. So this is kind of weird, so watch this. Make sure you're on tree trunk copy here, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to say duplicate layer. Instead of just duplicating another JPEG of the tree, I'm actually going to click on new, and for the name here, I'm going to type on displacement. Just like that. Click on OK. Alright, notice how now I kind of have this displacement at 100% tree, this new tab opened up here with tree trunk copy right here. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and close that out. I'm going to say save this. I'm going to put this on my desktop. You guys know that you actually have to put this in your H drives. You know, you can call it displacement PSD. I'm going to say desktop. You guys say H drive, format, Photoshop, and just click save. I'm going to say OK. Alright, so now I'm back. Once you close that out, you should see your 4 layers again, and you should be back with me just like this. Alright, so now we can go ahead and take our tree trunk copy, the one with the blur on it, and take it into the garbage can since we'd already saved that as displacement layer, and we can go ahead and bring back in our top layer of Martin Luther King. Alright, so yours should look kind of like mine. Alright, so make sure you keep up with me because this is going to be a lot of effects that we're going to do right now. Alright, so click on layer 1, which is just the face of Martin Luther King Jr., and you're going to go up to filter, you're going to go to distort, and you're going to go displace, and it's going to ask us for that displacement file. So we're going to say horizontal scale 10, vertical scale 10. We're going to make sure that it says stretch to fit here, and we're going to say repeat edge pixels, and say OK. All right, find your displacement layer, and say OK, open. That looks a little rough right now. What you're going to do now, alright, so now we're going to make a copy of the displaced photo here, and we're going to say duplicate layer, and say OK. And we're going to make the mode multiply. Alright, just like that. So now your picture should look something like mine. Alright. Alright, so now we're going to double click on the layer to open up its our layer options panel, and we're going to do something called color overlay. Alright. With color overlay, we're going to click on the color here, and we're actually going to type in 736D69. I had to write that in. Make sure your color is exactly like mine, and say OK, and then say OK. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and bring back in this picture right here. Alright, so now we're going to double click here and open up layer options, and we're going to go to color overlay. You're going to click on the color panel here, and you're going to match your color to mine, which is 736D69. Go ahead and type that in down here, and you'll notice that it selects this like charcoalish color. Select OK, and make sure your color is set to color dodge. Your blend mode is set to color dodge, and then go ahead and select OK. Alright? Alright. Alright, now make the layer below this active and change its color mode from normal to overlay. Alright, and now you can kind of see that the tree trunk is, the texture in the tree trunk is kind of overlaid across our image. Alright, and that's really important that you have your brush set to soft, or your hardness set to 0 on this one, so that when you made your selection, it kind of blended in to the tree trunk and it doesn't have these harsh lines. Alright, alright, let's see here. How do we finish? Alright, so, you know, my tree trunk is looking pretty good, but you can tell, like, around the face here, I've got these little lines, so I'm going to go ahead and say layer 1, and I'm going to go ahead and drop the opacity on that a little bit. Play around with the opacity for layer 1, and you will see that it kind of blends in a little bit better to the actual tree. And when you get a selection that you kind of like, that kind of looks like the same tone as the tree, you can see like with opacity at 100, excuse me, it's really, really bright. So I'm just going to drop the opacity a little bit and darken it up, and say like opacity 35, that looks really good. I'm also going to go ahead and put a curves adjustment on this and darken up the entire picture here. I'm going to say curves adjustment, and I'm going to say click this icon right here to clip this to the layer. So that basically what I'm doing is I'm adding a curves adjustment to the face and not the entire picture. Alright, if you don't do that, let me step backwards. You're basically going to adjust the entire picture. So let me go back until I don't have a curves adjustment at all. There. Let me go ahead and put a curves adjustment on it without clicking. Oh, hang on. There. There. Without actually clicking this click to layer icon, when I do my curves adjustment, it's going to do the whole picture, alright? Which I don't want to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and trash this one more time. I'm going to go ahead and do my curves adjustment. I'm going to say clip just to the layer of the face, and let's darken that up a little bit to match the tonality of the actual tree. Don't go too dark, because then you'll be able to actually see the lines from your actual selection. Alright? So kind of just like that. Alright? And when you get an image that's actually working for you, there, that looks great. Kind of like that. You want to make sure that you can still see your historical figure, and it should look something like that. When you're done, make sure that you guys actually collapse all your layers. So hold down Shift, select layer 1, and then select the bottom layer, and say layer, flatten image. Alright? It's going to say discard hidden layers. You're going to say yeah, sure, and then say file, save as, make sure you say JPEG, and I'm going to go ahead and put mine on my desktop. You're going to go ahead and put yours in your H drive. I'm going to call it MLK, JPEG. So you can pick any historical figure you want. I decided to pick Martin Luther King Jr., but anybody will work for this. And again, if you start with a colored photo, you just have to turn it black and white before you do this. That way when you actually select your color, and I give you that little code for your color, it matches. Alright? Alright, that's about it, guys. When you get a tree like this, send me the JPEG of it so I can print it up and hang up our historical figures. All right?